apart from many other factors, you can find that politics play a very big role. Also, maybe southwestern maize plantation, what was the level? Zone. Okay. So, just wait. Okay. So that's what I'm doing. Okay. And then that's after 6 months.
How much is enough? How do we quantify the milk production and say, okay, across this zone, the milk, because that the milk that is produced or the milk that comes from the animal is enough, either to be used by the household, and so they have something to rely on.
HEA does not go to the nitty-gritty of taking anthropometric measurements to actually indicate whether kids are doing well or not. We do not take sex scores. What we only do is we consider how food security indicators are performed. Do we have, in this situation, this zone, do we have enough water availability? We look at the water sources. Do we have our boreholes, strategic boreholes, are they functioning at optimum level, right? Is there enough water? Maybe has it rained? Have the rains, what is the performance of that rain to warrant good vegetation, good pasture for animals? What is the body conditions of these particular animals? So we do not get into the details like the quality issues to do with those particular livestock, but we only look at the body conditions. Are they stressed?
Just to be brief, household economy analysis, or HEA, as it's widely known, is a livelihoods-based analytical framework that is used for analyzing how people get the things they need to prosper, to survive and prosper. And by that, in household economy analysis, we are looking at how do households get their food, how do they get their cash income, and also we are looking at how the households spend this cash that they get from the various sources. Apart from that, HEA also looks at how this access to food, access to cash income, and also expenditures will be affected by hazards or shocks. And then HEA also goes a little bit further to be able to understand how households cope whenever they are affected by shocks. So that is basically what the household economy analysis does. Now, this framework has several steps. Actually, the framework is broadly divided into two. So we have the household economy baseline, which has 3 steps. That is the livelihood zoning, the wealth breakdown, as well as looking at the livelihood strategies. By that, I mean looking at how do households get their food, their cash income, as well as the expenditure patterns. And then going forth, we go into the other part of the framework, the second part of the framework, that is called the outcome analysis. So under the outcome analysis, we also have 3 steps. The first one is the problem specification, where we are simply translating the hazards that affect people into the economic consequences. For instance, if there is a drought, how is it going to affect the incomes? Perhaps you'll find that the incomes have reduced from 100% to 75%. And then from there, we go to the next step, which is called the analysis of coping mechanisms. We will want to understand how do households cope whenever they are affected by a hazard. And that coping is very important because it is going to help fill some gaps or some deficits that have been created by the result of a shock. So once we have that information, we go to the last step, where we now want to see the position the households are going to be in terms of their cash, their income, and their expenditures, so that we can see the gap that is left. And it is that gap that is left that we have to come in and fill. So that is basically what the framework does. And this framework is very important because it can be used in emergency response planning, it can be used in monitoring and evaluation, it can be used. The impacts of climate change are bound to increase, and as results, we are going to see a lot of climate-induced disasters, and these will eventually affect the livelihoods of the people, their means of getting food, and also the expenditures in general. So we also want to come in and see how can we use the information that we get from the household economy analysis to be able to plan around climate change, to be able to ensure that we are assisting households to build resilient livelihoods, so that even if the impacts of climate change are occurring, they are able to mitigate and also to adapt to those impacts of climate change. So the framework has so many uses, and it's something that we can adopt within our countries, within sub-Saharan Africa, and even in other countries like that are found in places like Asia, Southeast Asia, that also face a lot of challenges affecting livelihoods. So the framework can be modeled for so many uses. It all depends on the needs of the user.
Nevertheless, what is the gestation period for camels? Do you expect to get milk from a camel throughout the year? No. Normally, unaweza kamua ngamia for 1 year.
There is a possibility.
Yeah?
Yes.
Milk production, you will expect to get milk from camels throughout the year, isn't it? That is 12 months. If you get to the small stock, the small ruminants, the goats and the sheep, how many times do they give birth in a normal year? How many times? Twice. In the short rain season and long rain season, depending on when they were served, isn't it? Yeah. Yes. So, if that is the case for small ruminants, then at what periods in that season would you expect milk to be on the high, and do you expect milk to be on the low? That information is found in this season of calendar. So you get to the sheep. When are they likely to conceive? When are they likely to give birth? And when is there likelihood that you will have milk both in the short rain season and in the long rain season? Tunaona kwenye birth cycle and milk production, especially looking at the March, April, May, and then the October, November, December.
We are for some time, since yesterday. And
thank you so much for the partnership and for accepting to come and work with us again. And for Nawiri team, we really appreciate you. This is the only first time for those of us working in Turkana County that a partner has come and said, wait a minute, let me get the evidence. Let me get the evidence before I start implementation. This is the first time we are getting the evidence on the table first.
Okay, maybe southwestern maize plantation. So are not explained. I'm sure we know them. There are factors like ecology, rainfall, soil.
Today we are discussing a very important topic that is that's about understanding, putting all the county technical teams together to understand the household economic assessment study and their platform and the approaches, so that this particular approach, the HE approach, is able to inform our future planning and a future planning for food security, for decision making and what have you. So HEA is a very important and interesting tool that the multi-sectoral platform that has been established by Nawiri and the county government is promoting so that the CIDP in future is informed by the HEA, because HEA is generating a very interesting baseline information on the food, the income and expenditure patterns in Turkana County since 2012, 2016, and then we had 2006, I think, and then 2021. So that evidence is very important because we need to generate evidence to understand why we have persistent acute malnutrition in Turkana County, and that evidence is able to inform our planning, our budgeting processes, and that we're able to have quality programs that are informed by the various risks that are affecting our food security sectors, especially the fisheries, the livestock, and the agricultural sector. So this is very important. It's a tool that is gaining currency globally. It has been adopted by 50 countries all over the world, and I think 2 countries in Africa, 1 county in Kenya, and I think Turkana will be the 2nd county to adopt this tool because it's a very important planning tool. And what we think as a government is to see how we can use the evidence that's been generated by the HEA studies, 4 studies that have been conducted through the HEA tool. We can summarize this, put together, and then come up with a policy document that can be shared with the government, the cabinet, and the senior officials of the county government for future referencing of the baseline information on food security in Turkana County. Since it's a very robust tool for planning, it has to be domesticated in the economic planning unit of the county government. And I think we will recommend, and as a chair of the MSP, we will recommend that there is a task force that is able to generate a TOR, the scope of HEA tool, so that at least when we are informing government, when we are informing the planning team, they have a clear TOR so that it's domiciled in the planning team of the county government.